There are many Ravens fans that feel like they were cheated out of a spot in this year's Super Bowl by the NFL because the league wanted to have Taylor Swift and Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, and there was no other way they weren't going to make that happen. And the Baltimore Ravens had to be the casualty of that. Now, here's the thing. There were a lot of questionable no calls by this refereeing crew. In this AFC Championship game, there were a couple of pass interference calls and some tugging and pulling by Kansas City secondary that didn't get called. Some of them, you could argue, were some good no calls. Some of them, And then you had the Zay Flowers fumble, which, maybe his knee was down. Maybe it was just a good play by L'Jarius Sneed, but I do feel there's a little bit of some truth to the NFL wanting Taylor Swift in Kansas City to be in the Super Bowl. You know, maybe some calls were made and they put that fix in, but ultimately, you know, the Baltimore Ravens, they had some questionable calls on them, but there also were some calls that were the necessary ones, like Roquan Smith's unnecessary roughness penalty or Zay Flowers' taunting penalty. You know, Baltimore didn't lose this game because they got screwed by the refs. They lost this game because they screwed themselves. And I understand that there are Ravens fans that are having a hard time trying to digest this loss, because it definitely puts a damper and a sour note on what was a very fantastic season. You know, but the Ravens just didn't show up. When you only give your running back 6 carries, when you're the best rushing team in the NFL and you get away from your identity, then you lose games like this. When your star quarterback, who's winning his second MVP award this season, throws an interception late in the fourth quarter in the triple coverage, you lose. The referees didn't have anything to do with Lamar Jackson throwing that pick. They didn't have anything to do with the Baltimore Ravens only giving their running back 6 carries. The Ravens weren't robbed by the officiating in the AFC. They were robbed by themselves. It was Ravens on Ravens crime out there in the AFC Championship. I get that you Ravens fans feel like there were some calls that didn't go your way that should have, and that's understandable, but that's every game. You know, you can say that maybe the refs put the fix in against the Detroit Lions. The referees are always going to make bad calls. In every single game, there's going to be bad calls in the Super Bowl. There's just nothing that you can do with that. All you can do is go out there and do what you can to win the game without allowing the referees to dictate it. If you don't want the referees to dictate the outcome of the game, then don't allow them to. Don't put yourself in a position for them to. I know that's easier said than done, but maybe if the Ravens played true to their identity and they ran the damn football like they were doing for all of this season until this game happened, they would have won. If Lamar Jackson doesn't throw a stupid interception, maybe they win. But, you know, the whole narrative that the referees robbed the Ravens and they put the fix in for Taylor Swift and the Chiefs getting into the Super Bowl, like, nobody expected Kansas City to get into the Super Bowl. Kansas City is in the Super Bowl because, first of all, they have a great coaching staff. You got arguably the greatest quarterback ever in Patrick Mahomes. You got Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, and you got a great defense. The reason they're in the Super Bowl is because they were able to outplay a Miami team that just wasn't good, a Buffalo Bills team that, like the Ravens, self-imploded on themselves late in that game, and then you play the Ravens team that just got away from what was giving them success all season long. So I don't want to hear no excuses about the referees costing the Baltimore Ravens when this team cost themselves. Todd Monken only gave the running backs in this game 6 total carries. That's embarrassing. When you think about Baltimore Ravens football, you think about great running back play, running the football with a stable of running backs. Hell, what the hell was the point of signing Dalvin Cook if they weren't going to use him? You know, like, I get that there were some questionable calls by these referees, and there was a lot of tugging and grabbing by Kansas City secondary, but the referees had nothing to do with Baltimore not showing up against KC, at least the offense, because the defense showed up, but the offense, I guess they left their good playbook at home, and they brought the crappy playbook to this game because I don't know what the hell we saw out of Baltimore's offense. It just was a major disappointment. But they didn't get robbed. They didn't get cheated. The Ravens are where they deserve to be at because of how they played and the poor game plan and execution. The only two players on offense that somewhat showed up was Zay Flowers and Lamar Jackson. That was it. OBJ didn't hear his name called. He couldn't get open. Mark Andrews, he might as well have just stayed on IR because he didn't make a single impact in this game. So it was more of the Ravens beating themselves than it was the Ravens getting beat by the Chiefs and the refs. I get it's easy to always finger point and put the blame on the referees, but Baltimore, if they would have played true to who they were, they probably would have won this game.